my name is Nikki Enfield and I am the owner of Thrive Bodywork and a practitioner of structural integration. Now, usually when I say structural integration, I get met with a lot of, what's that? So I'm here to tell you what that is. The way I usually describe it is I start by sort of pointing out that we usually think of ourselves as walking skeletons, right? We're all used to seeing those suspended skeletons in our doctor's office, that are hanging there. Now, the only reason that that skeleton is upright and it's hanging is because it's strung together and then suspended. If those strings weren't there, tying it together, it would literally just be a puddle of bones on the floor. So that's important to remember. Anyway, we're used to thinking of ourselves as walking skeletons with muscles attached to it that move us. And Bob's your uncle, that's kind of how we think of ourselves. Unless we get, like a tummy ache or something, and then we remember, oh yeah, there's some organs up in here. So I always say that's not wrong, but it's a woefully incomplete model, which is why it tends to fail us all the time. A much more complete and dynamic way of thinking about ourselves is to picture a three-dimensional spider web called the fascial matrix. And I have a picture of fascia kablam right there. It literally looks like a spider web, doesn't it? Okay, so we have this three-dimensional spider web called the fascial matrix that is magically suspended in gravity. Surround that with skin and fill it with magic goo called connective tissue. I literally wish it was called anything else. I think connective tissue is a dumb name, but I wasn't there, I wasn't asked, so it is what it is. So I call it the goo. And it behaves kind of like a dense olive oil. Now, that is what we are. And our organs and bones and muscles are just suspended in that spider web, and that goo is what sort of allows that spider web to open and close elegantly. So Ida Rolf was the one who discovered the dynamism of the fascial matrix in the 1930s. She was studying to get her biochemistry PhD. And around the same time, Buckminster Fuller was studying architecture. And he came up with the term tensegrity. And that's what allowed him to develop suspension bridges. So you can kind of think of a suspension bridge, right? It kind of flows in the wind, and if there's a big windstorm, it comes this way, and the rest of it kind of follows elegantly, and then it comes back to neutral, and then it goes this way, and falls back into neutral. That's what our bodies do. That's what the fascial matrix does. So as the organs of movement, the muscle fibers activate and move us, the fascial matrix, the organ of posture, kind of, opens, and then the bones, the organ of structure, kind of come with, and then the whole kind of thing comes back into neutral. And then we go this way and the whole thing. Now, when things go awry, when we have pain, and it's usually in our joints, right? We'll have our shoulder joint is not working properly, or our hip joint isn't working properly, or our back, which is full of joints, hurts. The bones and muscles, or another pain is, we get tight muscles, right? Those bones and muscles don't hurt themselves in a vacuum. What it means is that something has gone awry in the thing in which they're suspended, the fascial matrix. And we call it twists. So the analogy I give is a made versus unmade bed, okay? When we're first born, we're like this lovely made bed. The fascial matrix is nice and organized and open, and the connective tissue, the goo, really does behave like a slippery olive oil. So if I want to sort of move my arm, I just move my arm, and the muscles that are responsible for it are all that need to be recruited, instead of what happens as we age. I go to move my arm, and half my rib cage and my spine and maybe even a hip come with me. So how do things get out of whack? Well, it turns out physical, mental, and emotional trauma live in the body. Where does it live? The fascial matrix. Ding, ding, ding. So we fall off our bikes, when we're 5. And math is hard. And, our parents are what they are, and boyfriends and girlfriends and jobs and life and life and life. And we get twisted, okay, or crumpled. Now, what's worse is the olive oil that's inside of these crumples stops being nice and slippery and it kind of turns to molasses. Well, it's a lot harder for energy lines, for movement lines, to operate through a twisted matrix full of molasses. And so we start kind of taking detours, movement detours through and around these twists. Well, turns out that just makes the twists worse. And we'll kind of go along and live our lives until one day the twist hurts. And that's the body's way of saying, yo, you're out of alignment. I'm going to cause pain. Pain is a symptom that there is a problem somewhere. Pain is not a problem in and of itself. I digress. Okay, so your crumple starts to hurt. So you go to all the things, right? A chiropractor, a traditional massage therapist, a physical therapist, a doctor, be what it is. And you say, my crumple hurts. And you might get a fairly decent one. They'll mess with the crumple and they may make your crumple feel better. But they haven't solved the underlying reason the crumple was there, which is the fact that your whole bed is unmade. And at best, they've borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, right? And made this crumple worse. Which is why pain tends to move around the body when we use just this two-dimensional model. So, where does that leave us? Well, just like you wouldn't make this bed going from crumple to crumple, right? You'd never get there. You just keep borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. You would go and you would latch on and you would pull it apart and you would come down here and you would pull it apart, and these places far away, right? Like far away. Look at how I'm here and I'm fixing stuff way down there. The crumples start to take care of themselves, which allows the bones and the muscle fibers to fall back into place. They go home, as I say, in an aligned fashion. And the ease of movement, the generative movement, and the painless movement that comes with our fascial matrix being open and our joints being aligned is just indescribable. And this is where I hate it because I sound like a freaking telemarketer. You have to feel it to believe it. But you really do. And I was a traditional massage therapist and I was really good at it before I did this. And then I had one session of structural integration done. And I'm not kidding, like 3 minutes into the session, I was like, I have to know how to do this. This is better. It is more complete. It is more problem solving. It gets to the reasons problems are there, and it'll solve problems that you didn't even know you had. So I'm just really lucky to be halfway decent at this work. And I would love to get you in my studio to show you for yourself the ease of movement and the generative nature of interacting with gravity that you can get through this work. So you can book a session at thrivealexandria.com. Send me a message or an email or anything if you have any questions. And I'll hope to see you soon and get you feeling better in your body. Take care.